While this is a T-rated game, this review has some adult content in it, so viewer discretion is advised. How many times is American Laser Games going to release this game? At what point do they make back that $100 investment that they spent on the actors in this game? I guess I'm to blame for their re-releasing of this game as well. Because the second I saw that it was available for the Wii, I rented it without hesitation. It's like looking at a car crash. You just can't keep yourself from looking. Why can't you look away from this game? Is it because it's good? Absolutely not. It's as awful as it was back in the 1990s when it was first released in the arcades. However, it must be a cult classic because the creators keep re-releasing this game for every conceivable format. They even released this game as a DVD game. So who did they find to help them with this re-release? None other than Majesco. Nice new intro, Majesco. I can see where your Wii minigame collection money is going. But it's nice to see an actual game from you, even if it's just a re-release of an old game. At least you're doing something different. Now that this game is out, you know what's coming next. I guarantee it. Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, the two other games that seem to be released over and over again. Those games are at least fun to watch and play. This game isn't. At least they didn't just release the first game. They released all three games in the series. So I can't fault them for at least putting in some effort into this game. And since the Wii mode is perfect for this type of rail shooter game, you would think the game would be fun to play. Sorry to say, no it's not. But it has nothing to do with the Wii. It's the fact that it's the same cruddy game that it was back when it was first released. Let's start off by talking about the actors they got to star in the game. I really believe that the creators went to a homeless shelter and offered anyone $5 to play a role in their game. The actors are terrible. There wasn't one of them that I could say was okay. And I think they got to a point where they did it on purpose. I guess their thinking was, if it's going to be awful, let's make it the most awful thing ever. Way to go for 100%. It's not a bad plan though. If you already know the actors are going to suck, why not just go for it? If you don't believe me, here are some of the best clips from this game.
We don't need you around here, bounty hunter.
Hey, Sheriff! Of course, I could be wrong.
Ranger, this is a map to the gold. The Padre has the other half. Watch out for Mad Dog.
Ah! I got a short fuse too, stranger.
While 90% of this game can be beat if you just memorize where all the enemies would appear, there was that 10% of the time where the bad guys would just appear at random. And that was definitely the hardest part of this game. Not only because it was random, but also because you only had a split second to kill the guy. These parts would often be the most frustrating to play, since if you were off by 1 pixel, it wouldn't read the shot correctly. Luckily, you had unlimited continues, but where they let you continue from and the conditions on those continues change from game to game. So I'll talk about that more in depth later. Now I'm going to talk about each of the 3 games separately, since they all play differently. However, there was one major problem that I had with every version. When you killed someone, there was no gunshot, only silence.
Shooting Beaver owes you a life. I don't want to hang out here. Come, we go.
It was like somebody forgot to add in the gunshot to this game, but you would think if they tested the game at all, it would be the first thing that they would notice. I then have to assume that they did it on purpose, so we hear the actors scream, I guess. The whole thing was just too strange. Let's start with the classic game, Mad Dog McCree. You start the game as a stranger to the town, and Mad Dog's men have taken over the town, and for some reason you actually care. They give you the choice of 4 separate locations. However, only one of these locations at the right time will advance the plot. So since you were told you need to go to the saloon to get the keys to get the sheriff out of jail, you'll start there. The levels are short, but that's a good thing. Like most of the game, in the end it will all come down to memorization. It's only towards the middle-ish end of the game do the random gunfights start to appear. When you continue in this game, they make you do a showdown first. They rob you of all your bullets and they don't let you reload until the second before you're supposed to draw your gun down on the bad guy. Once you get it down, it's pretty easy to do, but it seems so unneeded. And I think the creators agreed, since it only happens when you continue in this game. Mad Dog McCree 2, The Lost Gold. It's about finding lost gold. Well, there's a shocker. And of course, Mad Dog makes an appearance in this game. You have the choice of 3 different guides to help you on this journey, each with a different route to Mad Dog and the Lost Gold. I appreciate the change in playstyle with the choice of which way you want the story to unfold. But here's the problem with this game. You only get 3 lives to do it. Yes, there are unlimited continues, but you can only continue back to the beginning of the stage select. What kind of a continue is that? They let you continue playing the game from almost the start. Thanks, American Laser Games. That sure was useful. Suffice it to say, I couldn't get too far in this game, and I don't know if it gets any better later on, but honestly, with the horrible continue system, it made it really unfun to play. There were showdowns in this game, but they were much more of a random event than a requirement for a continue, which was a much better idea. Overall, the continue system killed any fun I found with this game. Even on easy, the game was really hard. The Last Bounty Hunter. Now, this one isn't even a Mad Dog McCree game. It's made by the same company, though. However, I guess since the gameplay style was the same, they decided to add it as a bonus to this collection. And I'm glad they did, as this one was the one I enjoyed the most. Now, you play as a bounty hunter who's given a choice of 4 different bounties to bring in, dead or alive. And yes, you get to choose. The bounties are more valuable alive, so if you care about your score, try to disarm them instead of killing them.
I'm unarmed. Oh, it's too bad. I was worth way more alive than dead.
Now, I think they should have added an extra bounty hunter mission where you had to track down the carpenter of these towns. He's obviously a crook with his piss-poor handrail construction. I lost count of how many times a bad guy would break through a handrail. If it's going to break that easily, then the guy who installed it should be ashamed. Now, the continues in this game were much better than the other games. They only made you replay the scene that you were fighting in. However, they did replay the same intro of the cutscene of the stage that you're currently in over and over again.
In Chinatown, if you end up stiff, it's not from too much starch.
Imagine if every time I screwed up on doing these
In Chinatown, if you end up stiff, it's not from too much starch.
Imagine if every time I screwed up on these voiceovers, you'd have to hear the
In Chinatown, if you end up stiff, it's not from too much starch.
Let's just say it would be irritating. You might have noticed the adult-themed overtones in the cutscenes, and that was in no way an isolated incident.
You my type. Everyone is. Don't forget to look for these.
While it's funny, I can't believe this sort of stuff was in an arcade machine. However, it is part of the Wild West culture, so I understand why it's there, but it really didn't need to be. There were also 2 other options in the Bounty Hunter game, Posse and Rebel. I think those were just other names for the 2-player game. And my plan after I played the single-player game was to go back and play those. However, after I finished playing the single-player game in Bounty Hunter, I couldn't find anybody willing to play the 2-player game with me afterwards. I asked the little reviewer and he said no. And then I just tried doubling up and that didn't work since everything had to be pixel perfect. I died in the very first fights. So I decided just to skip that part of the game and just assume it's okay. I do hope this is the last release of this game, as this could be called the definitive version of it. The Wiimote does a good job of simulating a gun, so it makes the game interesting to play, for about 10 minutes. After that, the charm pretty much fades away. If you're one of those people who really loves the Mad Dog McCree series, and I know there has to be someone out there who does, since they're re-releasing this game to some target audience, for those people, you will love this game. It's 3 games for $20. However, if you're part of the 99% of normal people who think this game is lame and best left in the past, then you should definitely skip this game.